Fahey the loser, but what about the victor, Bob Carr? Well, in 1987, he was known as the Minister for Going Places. As the Unsworth-led Labor government lurched through its final days, Bob Carr embarked on an image-building program, a program that helped him win the leadership of a demoralised Labor opposition way back in 1988. Today, after 7 years of rebuilding his party, Bob Carr became the Premier of New South Wales. I recorded this interview with Bob Carr and his wife Helena just a short time ago. Bob Carr, there are a lot of people who said you'd never make it. Did you ever entertain doubts yourself?
No, the honest answer is yes, of course.
Well, what sort of doubts were?
Well, it's 7 years leading a state opposition is a roller coaster ride, a real roller coaster ride.
A thankless task?
I think so. I'll say to whoever takes over as leader of the opposition in New South Wales, you've got a very tough job. I wish you well. But it's a very frustrating job because you don't get an opportunity to put forward your positive thinking, your plans, your ideas, your strategies. It's all about being a footnote on what someone else says.
And if you did entertain doubts during that 7 years, did you ever think about giving it away entirely?
I suppose it came up on a couple of occasions, but I was aware of the big obligation I had to my party, which had turned to me in 1988 after one of the biggest defeats Labor had ever suffered in New South Wales, and gave me the great honour of choosing me to lead them back. So I had an obligation to do that, so I stuck at it, knowing that if I fail, that was 7 years down the pipe.
Do you think there was a turning point at all? Because it does seem in that last week things seemed to go your way. Is that the way you read it?
I think in the last week when the problems of the government overtook them and people thought, goodness, all they can offer are negative ads, dirty tricks, scandals, and we were getting attention for our positive plans on health, on crime. I think there was a moment there when it all came together for us. But of course it was a close-run thing. It's come down to 70 votes or so in a key marginal seat, Badgerys Creek. But winning Badgerys Creek means that we're offering the people of New South Wales majority government. There's majority government in this state.
Helena Carr, Bob Carr has said that he entertained doubts. Did you ever doubt that he'd gain the ultimate prize, being Premier of the state?
It was a roller coaster, as Bob said. There were doubts from time to time, but I think when the campaign started, I always believed that we'd get there.
What would you say to those who have queried Bob's image, said he's too bookish, he's not a man of the people? What's your response to that?
It's their problem.
The voters have spoken.
Yes.
How difficult, or let me rephrase that, how hard has Bob Carr worked to get this? I mean, it's 7 long years. That must be a big strain on you as well.
Well, more of a strain on Bob and his colleagues, I'd say. I mean, they worked very, very hard. Bob worked extremely hard, and, it's paid off.
She had to put up with me getting out of bed early in the morning to ring radio stations. And I think that's a very tough imposition on your wife, to have to lie there 6 in the morning while I'm shouting into the phone to the 2WS newsroom.
What sort of personal impact will it have on both of you? Will you see more of each other, less of each other?
Well, we do things together. Helena enjoys going to official functions, finds a lot of the political work entertaining, good fun, and I think I'm lucky to have a wife who's got that approach to it.
Helena, do you find it at all daunting? The official functions, the fact that now you will be more in the spotlight, as it were?
No, I think, I enjoy it because it's getting away from my own world and my own world of problems. So to me, it's as much a relief, and I like meeting people.
Bob Carr, do you feel sorry for John Fahey?
Yes, of course.
Have you spoken to him
Yes,
today?
I pointed out to him that the majority of premiers of New South Wales since 1965 have ended their political careers with a defeat, or being thrown out by their party, or being forced to stand down, as Nick Greiner did. It is a hard business, and I told him he could be proud of the contribution he and his wife had made, and he could take pride in the fact that one of Australia's great political parties, its New South Wales branch, made him his leader. I said, no one can take away from you the fact that you were there representing the state at Monte Carlo. That's something I just want him to understand at what must be a very sad time for him, that he's got a lot to be proud of.
OK, what's the critical promise that you want to see achieved in the first year? Presumably it's halving those hospital waiting lists in the first 12 months.
And significant progress.
Will you stick to that promise?
Absolutely. We are committed to it. It is the focus of our campaign. We slash those waiting lists by half.
So how long will those waiting lists be, roughly, in, say, 12 months' time?
Well, half what they are today. And the figure agreed on today is 45,500.
And you'll stick with that figure? There won't be any, the hospitals didn't cooperate, the doctors didn't cooperate?
We will halve that figure. That's our key commitment.
What's the thing you're most looking forward to in the next 4 years?
I think real hard work on the right priorities for the people of New South Wales, cutting waste in government, so we can do in education and health and crime prevention what needs to be done, and generating the job growth in this state that I think the state's capable of, better competing with Queensland and Victoria for the job growth that the kids in the schools and colleges ought to be able to expect.
Bob Carr, Helena Carr, thank you both very much for your time.
Thanks, Neil. Thank you.
New South Wales.
The man with me now. Bob Carr has been there, done that, and it's no fun. Over the last few weeks, he drove himself to a standstill to avoid a repeat performance. Tonight, finally, he can relax in the certainty that Labor has won government. The nail-biting's over for Bob Carr and all his supporters. Well, congratulations, Mr Premier. Nice ring to it.
Yes, it has, after 7 years. After 7 years.
So what actually happens from here? When do you move in? So
well, I received a phone call, a gracious phone call from John Fahey today. I was briefed by senior public servants, the head of the Cabinet Office and the head of the Premier's Department today. They and my staff are working on transition plans. The caucus elects the Cabinet on Monday and the swearing in on Tuesday.
By the Governor. So when is the formal declaration of the poll?
That's on Monday, late on Monday.
So the Governor doesn't do anything until after that?
No.
What's the situation now? Who's in power tonight, this weekend?
Oh, John Fahey's still Premier. He's still Premier until making no major decisions, making no appointments, setting in train no new policies.
OK, and then caucus meets to elect the ministry, I think you said on Tuesday?
On Monday.
On Monday, I'm sorry. And they'll be sworn in with you on Tuesday?
Yes.
So on Monday night you'll be busily allocating portfolios and
yes,
so on.
Yes, that's right.
Pending the choices of caucus, are you planning any changes?
Well, it's the personnel is a matter for the caucus. I wouldn't declare what my preferences are. I'm satisfied we will get a very good team, and I don't think any opposition has done more work on transition to government. For goodness sake, we've had the time to do it, seven long years. We're well prepared for it, and I've got to say the relations with the public servants today confirm that there'll be a constructive planning, that the people of New South Wales can be assured that the transition will be a smooth one, a very professional one.
But I'm wondering if the people who've been in the shadow ministry the last few years have first call on the jobs?
Well, it's up to the caucus. I think by and large that is the case, yet there are often changes. I think every time a team's come to government, there have been changes in the 20-person lineup that comprises the front bench. But it's up to my colleagues to present the best case for their inclusion of their colleagues. There'll be people who weren't in the shadow cabinet making a bid to be on the front bench of this government. Will
there be any who weren't in government at all? I mean, weren't in the parliament at all? Any of the new faces worthy of a place?
I don't think so. I think my colleagues would see some service in the parliament as being a necessary qualification for taking over.
Well, of course, the new member for Blue Mountains has that. Bob Debus has been there as a minister, hasn't he?
He has. I think he'd be eager to be there as a minister in this government, but he'll have to ensure that his colleagues understand the validity of his case.
Now, you've already decided that the first cabinet meeting will be in Newcastle.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I think it's good advice to remember where you came from as a party. I'll never forget that the people of Newcastle, the people of the Newcastle region, made it possible for me to come so close to government in May 1991, when we reclaimed all that traditional Labor heartland in the Hunter Valley, territory that had been lost in 1988. I virtually lived in the Hunter as I rebuilt the Labor Party's fortunes there. I think in government it's an opportunity to say, well, you voted for us in the last two elections, but we're here to say we will never take you for granted.
It's a small reward, a symbolic gesture, I suppose. Is that also why you're going bush straight away?
I think that's something different. I think all of metropolitan New South Wales continues to be alarmed by the suffering in country New South Wales. Reports on the radio this morning confirming that the drought is not fading in large parts of rural New South Wales. I think it made my mind up that visiting farmers, visiting farming communities would be one of the first things I did, exploring opportunities for increased assistance and seeing that the assistance flows to the farmers who apply for it. I think the bureaucracy in this state has been deficient in that respect. Farmers haven't been getting the assistance in the same proportions as they have in other states.
And I guess you'd be keen to shore up support in the rural areas. I guess it's not the traditional heartland of Labor, is it?
No, it's not, but it's really not a political gesture this soon after an election facing 4 years in government. It is really, I suppose it's me saying I'm Premier for all the people, including those regions of the state that didn't vote Labor. But the drought is something that we've got to come to terms with as a whole community. The 6 million people of New South Wales have got to acknowledge that those in the bush continue to do it tough. I'd like to see that there are lines of communication between the farm community and the new Labor government. We're not natural partners. I acknowledge that farmers have not voted Labor by and large in the past, but I want to see that we are in touch and they understand that we're listening to their needs.
That'll be reassuring for them to hear, of course. You've been keen, I think, to dispel the jibes about Tweedledum and Tweedledee that have been thrown at both sides of politics in this election by saying repeatedly that you're promising a reformist government. That, in turn, I guess, will alarm some people. What does he mean? Do you want to take this opportunity to try and reassure them?
Well, I think there is a sense in which the pace of achievement in New South Wales has slackened, probably because of the instincts of the defeated government and the condition in the parliament, a hung parliament. I think we need to signal that New South Wales isn't resting on the laurels of the Olympics, that we are concerned to drive down the cost of doing business in this state, that we are competing with Queensland and Victoria when it comes to getting new investment here. This is all about jobs. It's all about guaranteeing that the kids in the schools and the colleges are going to have jobs and good jobs when they leave them, that New South Wales won't become, behind the glitter of the Olympics, a declining smokestack economy. So the focus of the reforms I'm about are seeing that government services to the business sector come down in cost, that the cost of doing business in New South Wales is competitive with Queensland, that we can drive for investment in this state, that we're seeing a 21st century economy emerge here. And one of the ways we guarantee job growth in the small and medium-sized business sector is to guarantee that the cost of water, electricity, rail freight and port charges in New South Wales is competitive with Queensland.
You made a point today, I think, of stressing that the majority of voters in a majority of seats supported you. But, of course, the overall vote went against you. In fact, the majority of people didn't vote for the Labor Party. Does that worry you? No,
it's a classic problem for the Labor Party in this decade. It's now clear that Liberals, that the Liberal Party and the Nationals are piling up huge majorities in their safer seats. The North Shore of Sydney, for example, huge Liberal majorities, bigger margins. They're holding them by bigger margins than Labor holds any of its seats. That doesn't just be speaker gerrymander. I mean, how do you convince... Oh, no, it doesn't. No, how do you convince Conservatives that they're not... that it hasn't been unfair, that they're not being robbed? Well, I think by delivering good government, and I think by not being strident and not appearing to be an unthinking and partisan government. I mean, that's part of the reason for going to rural New South Wales as a high priority. I mean, we're a government that straddles inner city Newcastle with its traditional Labor links and its focus on heavy industry as well as an emerging 21st century economy and the battling farmers in drought-afflicted New South Wales. That's the kind of government I want, one that can bridge those gaps. I've got to be aware that I've got to govern for those... provide good government for those who declined to vote Labor, whatever the blandishments, on Saturday. You said John Fahey made a gracious phone call to you. I believe Paul Keating also rang you to congratulate you. Well, about John Fahey first, I'll go on record saying that I said to John Fahey that he can be very proud of the fact that he was elected to lead what is the largest state branch of one of Australia's great political parties. I said to him as well, I didn't get a chance to repeat this today, that no Premier to come will have the honour that he had of being at Monte Carlo when the head of the AOC reached into the envelope and read the name Sydney.
One big step for New South Wales. We have to leave it there, where time has beaten us. But Bob Carr, congratulations again, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Andrew.
Well, winners are grinners, but what now for the Conservative side of politics, about to rediscover the relentless slog of opposition? After shaking off disappointment and moving into very much smaller offices, it seems the next thing that Coalition MPs need to do is to find somebody to lead them. Here's Philippa McDonald.
There was an air of impending doom in the Liberal camp last night, but just a block away, Labor, who'd been in the wilderness for the last 7 years, couldn't contain its excitement.
Any announcements tonight?
No, I'm having a drink with the Premier.
How is he this evening?
Well, I'll know that after I've spoken to him.
At the State Office block, Premier John Fahey's closest colleagues filed in to pay their respects to the man who'd been their leader for almost 3 years.
Can you tell us what's happening?
Yes, I can. My wife and I are going down to the Rockfish Cafe. We're going to have calamari, and we're also going to have some cuttlefish. It's just magnificent.
No one who hasn't been in politics realises how bad it feels. And I think it is deep. It affects relationships, it affects marriages, it affects career choices, and over these next few days I'll be doing all of that.
I think we'll be talking to each other.
Today, the media waited and waited for the advertised announcement, but John Fahey was in no hurry, bunkered down with little control over the machinations.
Well, that's the $64 question, whether Fahey's going to tail it or not. He's doing a bit of a hang-on at the moment. But no, the poor bugger hasn't even resigned yet. It's only, what is it, 11:02 or something. So he's got to concede, then Carr's got to come in, and everyone's treating him with sort of very gently at the moment because he's so belligerent. He'll probably just hang in just to frustrate everybody.
John Fahey was hanging on. With a change of venue for his announcement, anticipation became chaos.
That should do it.
Eventually he spoke, no questions, and stopping short of conceding defeat.
There will be challenges in a number of seats. They will go to the Court of Disputed Returns in due course. I'm very proud of the fact, and I say thank you to the people of New South Wales for giving me the honour to serve them as Premier.
But did he really have their support?
I followed a man that is decent. I followed a man that is honest, and he's no longer there.
Fahey, the accidental Premier, came to power unexpectedly after Greiner resigned.
Cindy, Australia.
Next came that leap.
I have to say that I've got one more left in me, and that will be on the 25th of March 1995 when the coalition government.
But neither the Olympics victory nor his act of heroism to save Prince Charles were enough to earn him a mandate in his own right.
It's not my concern. I wish them well. No one knows more than me how difficult the task is, how unrewarding until the final moment that I'm enjoying now, in which I intend to deny them.
Ian Armstrong is keeping up the brave face of last night, but understandably, the Nationals are disappointed, having won all but one of their seats.
Politics is the same world over. There's two sorts of people, there's winners and losers, and we happen to be the losers in this occasion. It's a voluntary form of masochism. If you get into the ring, somebody's going to come out the winner. So I'm a realist.
I will, after the declaration of the poll, call a meeting of the Liberal Party, and I do not anticipate standing as the leader of the Liberal Party when that meeting takes place.
But Collins should get it, and that'll be a great result.
Outgoing Treasurer Peter Collins says he's under pressure to run for the leadership. In a city cafe yesterday, he met with outgoing Health Minister Ron Phillips to strike a deal.
The best team for the coalition and opposition is the leader of the opposition who on day one can get up and attack the Premier and ask the first question in the House, ask it with authority and look as though he or she is the alternative Premier. It's a very close Parliament, has to look active.
Interesting times ahead. Philippa McDonald was the reporter there. The Senate Select...
They look like